The platform was loud, filled with the restless hum of departures and the echo of rolling suitcases. Announcements blurred together, names of cities called out and swallowed by the roar of engines. Yet amid all that noise, she stood still, her world utterly silent. Maya adjusted the red scarf around her neck, fingers trembling slightly as she did. The wind from the arriving train lifted its edges, brushing against her cheek like a forgotten whisper. That scarf wasn't for warmth, it was for memory. And for hiding. Across the platform, a man in a dark coat checked his watch, a cracked silver piece that gleamed under the station lights. He didn't look up, not even once, but Maya's gaze never left him. She knew that watch. Once, it had rested on her father's wrist. Once, it had ticked in rhythm with laughter that no longer existed. Her chest tightened. Platform 4. Karachi Express. Boarding now. A voice echoed from the speakers. She clutched her small suitcase, its leather worn and corners frayed, as though it had survived too many stories. The crowd shifted, feet moving in hurried patterns, yet she stayed rooted where she was, staring at the man who was pretending she didn't exist. He looked calm, almost peaceful, but Maya knew that peace could be a mask. Her mind replayed fragments she didn't want to see. The last night before everything burned, the phone call that never came, the red scarf stained darker than it should have been. The scarf tightened slightly around her throat as the memory struck. She took a slow breath, her reflection catching in the station window. Her eyes looked older than her age, tired but not broken. Not yet. A child nearby laughed as he chased a balloon, his mother calling after him. The small, innocent sound pierced through her tension, momentarily softening her features. For a heartbeat, Maya wished she could step back into that kind of world, the one before secrets became weapons. But the moment passed. The train's horn wailed. People began boarding. The man in the dark coat turned, his cracked watch glinting once more. Her hand instinctively brushed the scarf again, her pulse sinking with the distant ticking of that watch. Not yet, she thought. He disappeared into the crowd. She followed, silent and unseen, the scarf fluttering behind her like a warning flag. Somewhere, deep in her chest, truth stirred, unwelcome but alive. And as the doors closed and the train began to move, Maya's reflection vanished in the window, leaving only the red scarf pressed against the glass. The secret was moving too. The rhythm of the train was uneven, like a heartbeat that couldn't decide whether to race or stop. Maya sat by the window, her suitcase tucked between her legs, the red scarf still looped around her neck. Outside, stations blurred into a ribbon of dust and light. Inside, her silence grew heavier. Across the aisle, the man in the dark coat sat 2 rows ahead, his reflection flickering in the window's glass. He hadn't looked back once, yet somehow Maya felt his awareness lingering, like a shadow that refused to leave. Her fingers brushed the edge of the scarf. It had been her mother's once. Hand-woven, dyed with crushed pomegranate and patience. "It keeps you safe," her mother used to whisper, tying it around Maya's small neck before she'd leave for school. "Even when I can't." Back then, safe meant from the sun or dust. Later, it meant something else entirely. The scarf smelled faintly of smoke now, old, buried smoke. She wished it didn't. A family entered the compartment at the next stop. 2 little girls climbed onto the seats across from her, giggling, while their father placed a bright blue backpack above them. The mother's laugh, soft, effortless, filled the air. Maya smiled without meaning to. Then just as quickly the smile broke. Her father had laughed like that once. She remembered sitting beside him at the repair shop, the radio humming low while he fixed that same silver watch. "Everything can be fixed," he'd said, winding the gears carefully, "if you understand what's broken." She believed him, until the night everything shattered. Maya blinked hard, pressing her thumb against the scarf's fabric. The sound of the train blurred with memory, police sirens, shouting, the smell of metal and fear. That night, the scarf had soaked up her tears. It had also hidden her face when she ran. Now it hid her again. She turned slightly, catching the man's reflection once more. His cracked watch gleamed under the faint compartment light. The same watch her father had sworn he'd lost before he died. The same watch that had vanished from the police evidence list. Her pulse quickened. She shifted in her seat, unsure whether to confront or keep pretending not to know. The scarf's fabric slipped through her fingers like something alive, something that remembered more than she wanted to. A vendor passed, selling tea in chipped cups. The man declined politely, his voice calm, too calm. She stared at the back of his head, waiting for him to turn, for him to acknowledge her. He didn't. The train slowed again, stopping between stations. A pause in motion. The lights flickered once. Maya's reflection trembled in the glass, the red of her scarf glowing faintly in the dim. She hesitated, half rising. The man finally tilted his head, just slightly, almost like he'd been expecting her to. And for a breathless second, the world held still. Rain began to fall just as the train halted near a small rural station. Thin drops at first, then heavier, streaking the windows with trembling lines. The world outside blurred, a palette of gray and green dissolving into water. Inside, the compartment quieted, filled only with the soft clatter of raindrops against metal. Maya sat still, her reflection fractured by the rivulets on the glass. Her scarf was damp at the edges now, clinging to her neck like a heartbeat. Across from her, the man had shifted slightly, his hand resting on a worn leather wallet, its corners bent, edges frayed by years of use. When the light flickered, she saw a glimpse of what was inside. A small, faded photograph. A girl, maybe 12, smiling awkwardly beside a woman whose eyes looked familiar. That same uneasy warmth in the expression, that same scar near the left brow. Maya felt her breath catch. It was the kind of picture you kept when guilt wouldn't let you throw it away. She turned her gaze downward. Her palms felt clammy. The scarf had once comforted her, but now it felt like a tether. Every heartbeat reminded her of the secret wound it hid, not on her skin, but beneath it. When she looked up again, the man was watching the rain, his jaw clenched. His shoes, polished once, were cracked along the seams. They told a story, too, of long walks through forgotten alleys, of years running from something heavier than time. "Long journey?" he asked suddenly, voice quiet. She didn't answer right away. The question felt loaded, as though it wasn't really about distance. "Far enough," she murmured. He nodded slowly, fingers brushing the cracked watch. Its glass had a fine web of fractures, like it had been struck but refused to break completely. "Trains have a way of bringing back what you thought you'd left," he said, almost to himself. Maya studied him. There was no cruelty in his tone, just exhaustion, a kind of remorse that mirrored her own. For a moment, she wasn't sure who the enemy really was. Maybe there wasn't one. Maybe they were both just survivors, circling the same tragedy from opposite sides. A flash of lightning illuminated the compartment, throwing their reflections together on the window. For an instant, their faces blended, hers pale and uncertain, his shadowed and tired. The rain outside roared louder, like it wanted to drown out the silence between them. She should have stood up, should have walked away, but her body stayed frozen, bound by something that wasn't fear, something closer to recognition. He turned slightly, eyes meeting hers through the reflection. "You remember me, don't you?" The train jerked forward again, breaking the moment apart. Maya's lips parted, but no words came. Outside, thunder rolled over the tracks, carrying the question she couldn't yet answer. The train stopped again, this time at a nameless station, its platform half-lit and trembling under the rain. The crowd moved like ghosts through the mist, umbrellas flicking open, water pooling at their feet. Maya stood near the door, suitcase in hand, her pulse loud enough to drown the sound of the storm. She had decided. She would step off and vanish, leave him behind, leave the memories locked where they belonged. But when the doors opened, she hesitated. The man was still sitting across the aisle, the cracked watch glinting faintly in the dim compartment light. His fingers traced its face gently, almost reverently. Then he reached into his coat pocket and pulled something out, something red. Her breath hitched. The scarf. Not hers, but the same one, its color deeper, older, edges singed by time. For a heartbeat, the two scarves looked like mirrors of each other. Bound by history, neither of them could escape. He turned it slowly in his hands, eyes distant. It wasn't supposed to end that way, he murmured, barely audible over the rain. Some people carry more than just bags, they carry silence. Maya froze. The words sliced clean through her. A woman passing through the aisle gave her a sideways glance, quick, pitying. Another man shook his head, muttering something about family drama under his breath. Their judgment was casual, careless, the way strangers always were when they didn't know how deep someone's pain ran. Maya wanted to scream, to tell them it wasn't drama. It was blood. It was truth that had been buried too long. But her voice refused to move. Instead, she whispered, "Where did you get that scarf?" The man looked up at her finally. His eyes were tired but gentle, the kind that once promised protection. "It was your father's," he said. "He gave it to me before." His voice broke off like a wire snapping. Before everything went wrong, the train shuddered, as if reacting to the weight of his words. Her grip tightened on her suitcase. Part of her wanted to believe him, to see something good left in the ruins. But the other part, the wounded, guarded part, wanted to run until the rails disappeared behind her. She turned to leave, one foot already on the platform, the scarf slipping from her shoulder. The rain hit her face, sharp and cold. For a moment, she felt the past washing over her, blurring all the lines between anger and mercy. And she looked back, just once. The man was standing now, holding the old red scarf against his chest like a confession. Between them, silence stretched, thick, alive, unforgiving. And as the doors closed again, the train swallowed the distance, leaving only rain to finish what words could not. By morning, the storm had passed, leaving behind streets soaked in silver light. Maya stepped off the train with heavy eyes and a heart that refused to settle. The world smelled of damp earth and second chances, but hers still felt borrowed. She pulled the red scarf tighter, its fabric cold now, heavy with unanswered questions. The man hadn't followed her, at least not openly. Yet his presence clung to her like perfume that wouldn't fade. Maya crossed the station, heading toward the small bus stop near the exit. In her bag, a folded paper rattled. The job offer letter she'd received 2 days ago. A position she desperately needed. A chance to start again, maybe even to forget. The letterhead read, Darien Group of Industries. She stopped mid-step. Her breath caught. The name pulsed in her mind like a wound reopening. Darien, that was his name. Her hands trembled as she unfolded the letter again, eyes racing across the ink. Position confirmed. Supervisor, Mr. Elias Darien. Her stomach twisted. The man from the train. The one with her father's watch. The one who said, "Some people carry more than just bags, they carry silence." Maya's world tilted. She remembered that cracked watch gleaming in the dim compartment, his calm voice, his quiet sorrow. But now another memory pushed through. The night of the fire, her father shouting over the phone, saying, "It's not what you think, Maya. Elias, he's trying to help. Trying to help." Her knees weakened. Maybe the man hadn't been her enemy after all. Maybe he was a ghost from a truth she never understood. Still, something didn't add up. Why hadn't he said anything? Why carry her father's watch? And the scarf, if not out of guilt? The bus arrived, brakes hissing. Maya climbed aboard in a daze, taking a seat near the back. The city rolled by, glass buildings gleaming, indifferent to the ache inside her. When she arrived at the company's office, a tall, modern tower of gray steel and cold reflection, her palms were slick with sweat. Inside, the receptionist greeted her kindly, directing her to the 3rd floor. As she entered the elevator, her reflection in the mirrored walls looked both older and younger at once, haunted and determined. The scarf's red glow stood out sharply against the metallic world around her. The elevator doors opened with a soft chime. At the end of the corridor, Elias Darien was waiting, his cracked watch glinting faintly beneath the white lights. And beside him, on the desk, lay a photograph she'd never seen before, her father, her mother, and him. Maya's pulse stopped for a second too long. This wasn't just a reunion. It was revelation. And as she stepped into the room, she knew there was no turning back now. The room felt colder than it should have been, too white, too still. Rain streaked faintly against the windows again, though the sky outside had cleared. It was the kind of rain that came from nowhere, like a memory refusing to die. Maya stood frozen, her eyes locked on the photograph on Elias Darian's desk. Her parents, younger and smiling, stood beside him. It wasn't a stranger's face anymore. It was the ghost of a truth that had been waiting for her to arrive. "I didn't come here to hurt you," Elias said softly, setting the cracked watch down on the table between them. "I came here to finish what your father started." Her voice came out low, trembling. "And what was that?" "Burning down everything we had." He flinched. "You still think I caused that fire?" Maya's silence was her answer. Elias sighed, running a hand through his gray-streaked hair. "Your father was my partner. We exposed corruption in our own company. The real criminals silenced him. He tried to protect you. That's why he gave me these." He gestured to the objects between them, the watch and the old red scarf. Maya stared at them, confusion tightening into disbelief. "My mother said you betrayed him. I tried to save him," he whispered, "but I was too late." The rain grew heavier, drumming against the glass like distant applause. She felt the ground tilt beneath her, as though everything she had carried, anger, grief, purpose, was suddenly without a place to rest. "You could have told me," she said quietly. He nodded. "I wanted to, but you weren't ready to hear it. You needed to find me yourself." The scarf slipped from her shoulders, falling between them. He picked it up carefully, like something sacred. "She made two," he said. "One for you, one for your father. He gave me his the night before the fire. So it would remind me that some people can't be saved by revenge, only remembered by mercy." Maya's throat ached. She remembered her father's words, once spoken under the flicker of lamplight. "Everything can be fixed if you understand what's broken." She looked at Elias now, and for the first time she understood. He wasn't her enemy. He was what was left of her father's unfinished faith. Tears burned her eyes. "Then fix this," she said. "Tell the world what really happened." "I will," he promised, "but not without you." He handed her the red scarf, its color darker now in the dim light. "You were at this time," he said softly. "You've carried the pain long enough, now carry the truth." Maya took it slowly, wrapping it around her neck again. The fabric no longer felt heavy. It felt alive, like her father's last embrace, reborn through forgiveness. As she turned to leave, the platform below shimmered with light from the rain-soaked streets. The same sound, the same wind, but she wasn't the girl waiting anymore. She was the one walking away. Behind her, Elias's voice broke through the silence. "Not every stranger you help is meant to stay." She paused, just once before stepping into the open air. "But some leave you changed forever." The city looked different now. Not brighter, not kinder, just clearer. The kind of clarity that comes after a long storm, when even the smallest things, footsteps on wet pavement, the hum of a distant train, feel like truth whispered in a foreign tongue. Maya walked slowly along the riverside, her shoes brushing against puddles that mirrored the fading light. The red scarf hung loosely around her shoulders, no longer a shield, no longer a weight, just a quiet memory. It had been a week since the meeting with Elias Darian. A week since the truth reshaped everything she thought she knew about her father, her anger, herself. She hadn't spoken to him again. She didn't need to. Some stories end not in reunion, but in release. She stopped by a small wooden bench overlooking the water. The scarf's edge fluttered in the wind, brushing her fingertips. For the first time in years, her hands weren't trembling. In her bag rested the cracked watch, its gears now repaired, its ticking steady and alive again. She'd spent 2 nights fixing it, carefully turning each screw the way her father once did. It wasn't just a watch anymore. It was a heartbeat she could hold. She whispered to the air, barely audible, "Sometimes love is not romance. It's recognition." A small smile touched her lips. Nearby, a mother lifted her child into her arms, the sound of laughter mingling with the breeze. Maya watched them quietly, not with envy but with understanding. She no longer needed to run from what was lost. She only needed to carry what remained. When the wind grew colder, she stood and placed the red scarf on the bench beside her. The fabric glowed faintly in the sunset, like a flame learning how to rest. She knew someone else would find it one day, someone who needed warmth more than she did. That thought didn't ache, it comforted. Some things weren't meant to stay, only to pass through, leaving traces of mercy behind. As she walked away, the river shimmered gold and silver beneath the dying sun. Every ripple looked like an unfinished story, every reflection like a face she almost remembered. In her chest, something quiet bloomed, an ache that didn't hurt anymore. Just a knowing. When she reached the edge of the street, she turned once, seeing the scarf catch the last light. It looked alive, waving gently, as if saying goodbye. And in that moment, she realized closure isn't silence. It's choosing to keep walking. Because in the end, not every truth needs justice. Some only need to be understood. And maybe forgiveness is just another form of remembering.